Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As you would so imagine, it is Tuesday. It is July 12th, and this is Day 9 Daily number 323. And it is Protoss Week in the Day 9 Daily, and we're going to be talking about all things MC. It's going to be the PvZ fast Voidray opening from MC and all the sorts of variants. And I was having a little bit of time, or excuse me, a little bit of trouble trying to hone down on exactly the small set of games I wanted to do. So I just said, screw it. And we're going to be doing 6 games today. 6 games of his PvZ wonderfulness, talking a lot about the variants and various things to consider with the PvZ styling. But before we do, let's play a fun little game. Where did Sean cut his face shaving? I'm only going to give you 2 guesses because I did it twice. If you guessed here and a little bit here, yeah, bingo dingo, wanna mingo. And honestly, I have great Razor Micro, but apparently it was less than ideal today, and I totally looked like I went at my face with a samurai sword. Before we begin today's daily, I wanted to extend a special I love you message to Sen. For any of you who did not know, I told the tale of Sen teasing me when I was at NASL. And despite the fact that Sen's English isn't that good, he was still like really, really funny in terms of like, you know, teasing me at NASL. So we brought it up on Fun Day Monday, but Sen felt bad. This is how awesome Sen is. Sen felt bad, and look at what he gave. Look at what he made for me. Yeah, look at this. Look at that, Sen. Yes, I love this man, Sen. Yeah, let's come back. No, yeah, let's look at it again. Yes. This is the greatest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Sen, seriously, what a sick, outrageous hero, giga, mega, super, duper, duper baller. I wanted to extend him the greatest of thank yous because that's pretty kick-ass. See, the thing is that Sen and I have actually played Brood War way back in the olden days, and Sen was always the one player who always scared me more than anybody because he could play all the races quite well. I still remember in like 04 and 05, whenever we'd play, he'd be like, what race do you want me to play? What strategy do you want me to play? And he beat me with like freaking all of them. It was so good. Transitions over to StarCraft 2, and it's like smashing everyone's face as well. And some people yesterday were even saying, like, why don't you play Sen in a show match? I don't want to lose Oath 3. I have a reputation to uphold. Why would I want to do that? Ugh. And as a matter of fact, NASL folks have been kind enough to extend to me the offer to get some of Sen's replays so that we can cover them in Zerg Week next week. Yes! So look forward to a whole bunch of Sen popping up in the next week's Zerg Week. With all that said, we've been on the daily for about 3 minutes, so let's jump into the topic of the day, which is going to be all about the good old air control play. To begin this off, let's see, what's the first one we're going to be doing? Ah, yes, it is a game between oGsMC and Nogrim from the DreamHack Invitational. Where is it? It is on Letapos. Very good. So, to begin the whole discussion of air control in PvZ, what we're going to be looking at is a fairly standard-looking Protoss game that I would actually call a little bit more of the traditional Protoss play. We're going to dive right in, we're going to look at it, identify what is traditional about it, and then start to identify some problems with it. So here we are, in the game. Yes, indeed, we see this. And, by the way, just for the record, let me just come back over here. No, that's the wrong hockey. Yeah, look at this. Look, he even got the stubble right. He even got the stubble right. This is so awesome. All right. Hopping back in. Let's go ahead and go to the game. All right, so we have oGsMC here at the left, and in the south position, we have GG's Nogrim, right? So what we're going to end up seeing straight out of MC is some pretty typicalness. So let's talk about everything that's normal. All right, building the gateway, building the gas. We're going to see a pretty typical early expand type thing. Nogrim's going to be going for your usual gas pool opening. One thing I do want to note, MC occasionally will do this stuff where he just does a little bit of funky early aggression with Zealots, as many players are often unaccustomed to this kind of pressure early on, and he barely doesn't kill it off. But that's okay, because we're still going to see oGsMC do his usual line of work. He's going to be going for a fast expand. We see the sentries going down. All is seemingly normal at this point in time. Forge. Oh my gosh, they try to harass him. And we're going to see MC transition straight into a fun little Stalker Sentry mix. And he's actually going to go for another little push. Now this is a pretty typical thing that you'll see a Protoss player do. It's going to be an early attack, some early pressure, and this is this mysterious word that you hear come up all the time in StarCraft 2 discussions. You need to pressure him. You need to make certain that you can pressure him. You need to pressure him very, very well. And this is the sort of thing that can be very ambiguous for a newer player, but at the same time is one of the most important things. You cannot let a Zerg player go off and do whatever the hell he wants, right? If you do, he's going to build up a whole bunch of drones, and he's going to get to what I call the easy Zerg endgame, where he has 75 drones, all the upgrades, and he just keeps hurling units at you, and then you die. So we're going to bounce back into the game and see this sort of thing. This is a good bit of pressure that you'll end up seeing very, very, very frequently. Early pushes like this. And this was, I guess I'd say, popular for the, I guess, at the end of 2010, like right around the time that TT1 was performing really well in the MLG tournaments, doing these 5-6 gate pressures. Interestingly, oGsMC just did this with 3 gateways, but still forced the opponent to make a good bit of Zerglings. We're going to talk about forcing in a little bit, but we're not actually going to worry about that as much for the time being. And now, with Protoss having been repelled by the Spinecrawler, Zergling, Queen defense from Nogrim, more upgrades coming out of Nogrim, and what are we going to see? That's right, the double robotics facility play. And we see that the Zerg player is going to be trying to prevent the Protoss from taking the 4th. And this is something that I want to note right off the bat when we come to the Protoss vision cam. Look at the vision that Protoss is dealing with. It's very limited. We have an observer here poking and prodding at the front, getting some spotting, but I mean, mysteriously, these infestors pop up. Is this starting to look like a game that you may have as a Protoss player, right? We're getting our robotics facilities, churning out a lot of units. We have a +1 upgrade right here, but you're starting to get hit in a lot of places at once. If you watch Huck's stream maybe 6-7 months ago, you'd see very much so this sort of style going on, where the Zerg was just hitting them all over the place, and Protoss was defensive. Still look at the vision. Now let's come actually over here to Nogrim and look at Nogrim's vision. Has units extending all along the map. Look at the mini-map. Mini-map is actually looking incredibly good for the Zerg player. Moving Zealots up. We're actually going through this game real freaking fast. Coming back to the oGsMC cam. And look at this. He has his army of 6 Stalkers now. That's awesome. Or 6 Stalkers. 6 Colossus. Oh, incidentally, 6 Stalkers as well. I misspoke and landed on some correct phraseology. That's good news. But I mean, how often does this happen to you? I mean, I'm starting to just keep reiterating the same question, like, how often does this happen? But this is the real issue that would happen very frequently with the style of play that we'd see from your traditional old-school Protoss, that he would just be on the defensive. He'd just be sitting and waiting, and he'd be on the defensive, and he'd be on the defensive, and you know what would be happening to Zerg? Nothing. Nothing at all would be happening to Zerg. In fact, he'd be sitting there getting to do whatever the hell that he wanted. And that, of course, puts him in an obviously better position. So I'll even times 8 it to the end, trying to let it just keep going as quickly as it can. Come on, working units MC. And what we're going to see is this classic problem where right when the engagement does happen, Protoss has the army that he wants. We're actually going to come back to the game that's running as quickly as it possibly can. Where Zerg has this death army, look at this Ultralisk Infestor Baneling army with Baneling drops, and here comes MC finally able to move out with his money mix. He has the 6 Colossus, he has the DTs, the Immortals, he has the Templar, he's even getting the +3 weapons. But what's happening is that he's going to get mauled. He's going to get absolutely punched in the frickin' head. So, what does this bring us to? It brings us to the topic of the day. I'm doing so great on time. It's going to bring us to oGsMC's very fast air build. Now, before we even jump into the build, I want to talk about this abstract notion of forcing very quickly. I say this lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, but let's make sure that everyone is on the same page while I drink water. Excellent. All right, so, I would lose my train of thought then. All right, that's right. So, forcing is when you do a move that cuts off certain sets of strategies that you need to worry about. Now, let me say the traditional way that forcing is used, something like, oh, he's making Mutalisks that will force the Terran player to make turrets and Thors and all that stuff. This seems like an entirely intuitive idea to your average bear. He's building air units, I must get anti-air units. But notice the way that I define forcing. It cuts off things that you need to worry about. That is strictly what I'm saying when I'm saying forcing. So when I say it forces him to do blank, the important thing to note is what's being crossed off this list. So for instance, if I say something like, it forces the opponent to make anti-air, then that's another way of saying I don't need to worry about something like a Marauder Hellion push, because that has no anti-air. A Marauder Hellion push is a good strategy in Terran vs. Zerg. It's actually a really, really strong way to play. But if your opponent is making Mutalisks, you are forced not to do that. So this is why pressuring is a very, very important concept, because anytime I move forward and do a little bit of attacking, I can force my opponent to do certain things that he may not want to do. Another very, very important consequence of the way that I'm going to be using forcing is there are some subtle situations that might not be as obvious. The obvious example, again, just to reiterate, if I'm making Mutalisks, if I'm making air, he must make anti-air. But there's other things, for instance, where if here's a good example, if I'm doing a really passive 2-base build, where I build up a huge, scary army and go kill my opponent, he might be completely unable to defend it unless he has 3 bases worth of resources coming in. So in other words, if I'm doing this strategy, I'm forcing him to build 3 bases. So you see what I mean? I'm essentially saying I'm not worried about 2-base strategies. I'm completely crossing them off. It forces the situation into a smaller box of stuff that I need to worry about. I suddenly don't need to worry about any 2-base strategies. I only really need to work within the 3-base style box. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a great game between Sen and MC on Metalopolis. This is from Dreamhack Droop Stages. That's right, the Dreamhack Group Stages. The Dreamhack Droop Stages. That's a first. I've never quite messed a sentence up so badly. Here we are. Let's go ahead and pop into the game between Sen and MC. We're going to see MC at the south. Now, what I want to introduce in this game is the basic structure of the build, and then the basic way that this plays out. It is going to allow us to scout. It's going to allow us to force our opponent down certain situations that he really does not want to be going through, and it's going to give us a lot more control. It's going to be very expensive, and it's going to be a costly deviation from our usual set of units, but we're still going to see how it gives you so much of an advantage that it's going to be great. So here we see the Cybernetics Core and Assimilator popping down. This is a pretty typical opening, right? We are getting everything that all the other players would get, except we're getting a Stalker out first. This is a way for us just to do a little bit of gentle stuff. You don't actually need to do this. You don't actually need to get the Stalker out. You can kind of do this however the hell you want. Still very, very important to note that all the air styles we're going to be looking at today are things that you can incorporate in that aren't really so strict. There's other builds that do have almost no room for air, but this is more of a concept, and we're going to explore the fast air concept. So we do see the sentries popping down, and we see a very fast Nexus going down when we just have 1 Stalker and 1 Sentry. Our Stalker is going to march forth and try to do damage. If I saw my opponent going for some sort of really fast pool with speed, I'd probably not get the Stalker. I'd probably get a Zealot out first. And look what we're seeing MC do. He's building another gateway at his front. He's building another gateway at his back. He's building yet another Sentry. And when this Chrono Boost, this Warp Gate finishes, we'll be seeing yet another Sentry. Here it comes. Bam. Oh, I'm good. Oh, I really do watch these replays beforehand. Then we're going to see a Stargate come down. The important thing to note is that he gets these 3 gateways first, and then he's going to opt for this Stargate. Already, we have a little bit to discuss. It's very, very easy to fall into the following mental trap, which is you say, I'm going to be doing strategy fill in the blank. And I'm going to rush for fill in the blank as fast as humanly possible. right? Oh, I'm going to do a Stargate style of play. Oh, I guess I better get it as fast as frickin' possible, right? You rush for the new element in your play. Don't do that. These gateways are essential for this early defense. Super freaking essential. We must get a lot of these up to avoid being overrun by a big pack of Zerglings early on. We are, though, going to be saving up Chrono Boost for this Stargate. Many of you will be saying, well, exactly when do I start saving up Chrono Boost? I'm less focusing on exactness in this specific game, and again, more on the concept. We want to have these gateways up first, and that's an important thing to value. We do see some roaches coming out for Sen. It looks like he's doing an early push. This very fun early push. We're seeing some Chrono Boost go down on the probes. You see, you're noticing not that much Chrono Boost is being saved up. It's not like he's going crazy. We're seeing still just sentries being produced. And then we start producing a Voidray, and we begin getting many mineral-focused units. No more sentries at this point in time. Still have not gotten these two geysers. That's very important. Still have not gotten these two geysers. Now let's go to the oGsMC vision for a bit. And there we go. After we start churning some stuff out, we're going to see Voidrays pop out in large numbers, right? We are going to not stop at one Voidray. We're going to make many. We're going to see that in almost all the games today. We're going to make many. We're going to see what happens when you don't make many, what your possible risks are, but for the time being, just note that many are popping out. Forge going down now, another important thing. And what do we see MC first doing with this Void Ray? In the olden times, we used to take this Void Ray and rush for the third. But look at this path that the Void Ray is taking. Isn't this interesting that the first things that he's going for are these two Zerglings? He's trying to take out the watchtowers. He's trying to take out the watchtowers. And with this second Void Ray, it's rallied to this Overlord that's being sent over here. We're seeing a third Void Ray pop out. Occasionally you'll see MC just sort of sit on him, but don't worry too much about that. And then we're seeing him take out another Overlord. Interestingly, this third is clearly in kind of a vulnerable state, right? It's very, very seemingly like the target you'd want to push. I'm even going to show this explicitly when we go to the Everyone cam. I wanted to first note everything that MC was doing. So here comes the Void Ray popping out right now. Look at how vulnerable this is. Old school air PvZ would dictate that you should rush for this location on the map. But we're not seeing MC do that. We're instead seeing him pick off Overlords, pick off the Zerglings at these watchtowers, and pick off the Overlords back here. Yeah, look at that, committing to that hard before he heads up here. This is an important thing to note because look at Sen's vision. He finally now regains control of these, but we're going to see MC continue to batter down these Zerglings and regain this map control. Upon getting these three Void Rays, we're going to see MC go nuts with the air. He's still devoting resources to air. He's getting himself kind of a hefty army, but notice it's all been not sentries. These are the only sentries we've built. They're the first 6 sentries we built. And it's all mineral-focused units. Stalkers don't require too much gas. They do require some. We're getting an upgrade. We're getting a little defensive photon cannon. But oh my goodness, we are getting a ton of Phoenixes. And this is a very interesting kind of harass that you will end up seeing come out of a player because let's talk about forcing. My opponent is essentially forced to get Hydralisks, right? As a obvious sort of response. There's a bunch of stuff in the air. I better get some Hydralisks. But also note that Sen does not have Hydralisks in time. As a matter of fact, Sen is forced to have built Queens and to have gotten an Evolution Chamber. If you don't get a fast Evo Chamber and someone's coming up with this 3 Void Ray, multiple Phoenix harass, it is nearly impossible in many circumstances to be able to defend it. It is so hard in a lot of circumstances to be able to defend it. Look at the way that this battle is going to go for MC. He has, actually, let me back up so that way we can get an explicit count of how much is coming down here. Again, very important to note that there are 3 Void Rays. Look in the unit counting station. We see 4 Queens, basically joined with Creep. We see a Spore Crawler down. Is there a Spore Crawler at each location? I wish I could get a count on Spore Crawlers. I'm going to try to box it. We see 1 over here. I don't see another one in here unless I'm messing up. Yeah, it doesn't actually look like it. But, look what happens. If Sen does not have this big focus on anti-air, he's going to lose this. We're lifting up the Queen that is not attacking us. Look at the Spore Crawler beginning to advance forward. 3 Voidrays can charge on 1 Queen if you start attacking at the exact same time. And now we have 3 fully charged Voidrays. As a bit of a blunder, MC doesn't begin fully charging. He actually loses charge on these Voidrays. But look, all of a sudden, here comes a second Queen. Lifting that sucker up, splitting these up. Building non-stop Spore Crawlers. Look at this Queen getting produced. So again, this is a rough spot for Sen to be in. There's stuff going on the minimap, like we can see the expand. Ignore that. Just look at the battle. Just notice that if for some reason our Zerg player did not get many Queens and many Evo Chambers up, he would clearly lose. Because Sen did get those Queens up. He did go for those Evo Chambers early on, and Sen is having a hell of a time being able to defend this. MC kind of botches this and ends up losing absolutely everything. But up until the point where he sat and let his 3 Voidrays just take a lot of damage, he was doing just complete murder up at that top side. So I want to also come back to this earlier stage, because first of all, that battle is important to be able to illustrate the point of how these Voidrays are going to be able to force our opponent down certain lanes. Because what I want you to also see here is that oGsMC is not going to scout here. He's not going to see that a Hydralisk Den is coming. He's not going to see that there's an Evo Chamber down. He knows if you don't get a lot of Queens and you don't get a lot of Evo Chambers, you lose. And if you don't follow it up with Hydralisk, you're going to have a really hard time repelling this attack. So in a sense, oGsMC doesn't actually need to do that much scouting. He literally just needs to make this attack so huge and happen so fast that he's in good shape. If he went to that third and there was no third, that's when it's time to do a little bit of shitting of the pants, right? That's when it's time to go, I better find out what's going on here. But in this circumstance, no. So this is where you can begin doing some deviations with your control, with all your control. It looks like Sen does have these watchtowers, but Sen is going to be hard-pressed to deal with this very fast expansion. Look at this, non-stop chrono boosting and rallying of the Phoenixes. We actually see a lot of probes getting made throughout all this whoopsie days. 54 probes, which is quite a bit at this point in time. Just making the simple gateway units, making the cheap ones, Zealots and Sentries, and going for a really fast third. Here's the moment in the battle where I told you to ignore the bottom right. We do see the fast third going down. Sen trying to gather some ground units to go for a push. But obviously, this isn't going to work. Quite obviously. Why? Because you know what? Everything was having to be devoted to these Hydralisks. We're seeing 4 or 5 Hydralisks in production. The slow-ass Hydralisks are not going to be able to get cross-map. That's why MC's going for this fast expand. We're cross-map. You're forced to make Hydras. Not going to let you. And here comes the Phoenixes. We're going to see them again pick off these pesky Zerglings. And now we see MC respond in some intuitive ways. He's going to wall himself in. He's going to be going for a robotics facility, just because in general that's good. If his opponent continues to make lots and lots of Hydras, he can easily just say, oh, well, I guess I'm getting a Colossus. Boom! So we see the Phoenixes again going to be, come on. There we go. Thank you for helping me make my point, oGsMC. But now we're going to come to the Sen cam. And this is a weird situation. Remember in the last game that we looked at between MC and Nogrim, where Nogrim had complete vision control of the map? It's not the case here. Actually, come to the MC cam with me. MC is actually getting a lot more vision. Have you ever wanted to go build a pylon over here as Protoss, so that way you can do some warpins later on? Well, you can when you have map control, thanks to all this air pressure that you've dished out, right? This is great for you. Yeah. So we end up seeing MC in a fairly intuitive position, and interestingly, it's this pack of Phoenixes, this 6, 7, 8 set of Phoenixes, that does the rest of the scouting in the game. Ordinarily, players like to get their first Phoenix and poke around with that. We don't need to do that with this build. We can actually jam 3 Voidrays, rally Phoenixes, force you down a certain path, and then after you've been forced into this small box, we use these 8, 9 Phoenixes to find out what's up. Well, I guess it's more like 6 to 8. It's still a lot. So he's doing the poking and prodding and looking around. We see the Observer now continuing to advance to the same spot again. And MC's playing a pretty expected style. He's going to be going for the good old big gateway unit mix with a couple of Colossi, continuing to check along these fringes. Mutalisks now popping out, kind of an interesting mix, but we see MC again going for a center expansion. And I think it's pretty clear to see that, once again, this is a better spot. Actually, let's just come back to the vision centers. We see that Zerg is coming with some Mutalisks, but with these Phoenixes, we're going to have total lockdown. Come to the Zerg point of view. He's starting to encroach forward, has just retaken these watchtowers seconds ago, and this big attack is coming in, but he's kind of having to do it blind. It can feel a little bit risky. So another advantage that I want to point out by this Voidray game, and which one did I want to do next? Oh yeah, the all-in game versus Nogrim, where we're going to look at how good this is at dealing with several all-ins, because conceptually it can be very useful to think about these sorts of things, but there comes a point where I need to say, all right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's see how this deals with someone hurling units at you really fast. So we do see that this is a game between Nogrim and oGsMC. This is again in the group stages of DreamHack, or as I like to call them, the droop stages of GreamHack. And here rolls on in the friendly probe doing the scouting. And see here in this game, let's talk about some specifics. In the last game we saw Hatch First from Sen. In this game we see an Extractor Pool. So if we're going to be seeing a player with a lot of Zerglings up early on, oGsMC actually favors getting himself some extra Zealots in the mix and getting a Sentry. You don't necessarily have to do it in this exact order. I want you to note that there are 2 Zealots here, as opposed to the exact timing of the 2 Zealots. But we're going to see, yet again, the same overall structure. There's the 1 gate. There's the next gateway. Sentries on the non-stop rollout. Chrono Boost being used appropriately on the warp gates and occasionally on the gateway itself. Here's another gateway going down, and once we have all that down, we're getting a Stargate once again. Nothing too out of the ordinary. The Stargate's a little earlier than it was in last game because we didn't get the Stalker. But here is a very common early pressure build coming out of Nogrim. Does not actually have that many workers for a Zerg player at this game, as we can see by the fact that these are essentially aligned. But this is a very common early push. We're going to see him flood Roaches and rally Zerglings. So he makes a big round of Roaches. Here they are marching out, and Zerglings are going to be coming up. What I actually want to briefly do is pull back in this phase in the game, and we're going to watch it ×8 speed, just so we see what it looks like from a Zerg point of view. Just so we can see how fast it is. We early expand. We get the second queen down. She's just laid her creep tumor. And immediately upon our expo being done, we build a Roach Warren, and what do you know? Bam, 9 Roaches. I mean, this is fast from Zerg's point of view. It's very easy to be watching the Protoss point of view, switch to Zerg, and to think to yourself, no, he could have done that faster. He really couldn't have. I mean, even look at Nogrim's food count. It's quite high. So we see all our friendly warp gates getting morphed in. And we see the Voidray coming on in as well. It's getting chrono boosted. In the warp gates, we see that we do have warp available. In the bottom right, you'll see that I have 3 warp-ins on each of these units. That means that I can warp in. But we're seeing MC cut gateway units. And voila, here come in all the Roaches, and as this early attack works, we just see Zerglings rallied all the way across. We see, even in production, 12 Zerglings coming up. And Nogrim actually has enough to throw down another hatch in the middle of all this, especially if he pulls guys off gas, but it looks like he's being even more aggro. So we're seeing the terrible situation that always occurs on Xel'Naga Caverns, where it seems nearly impossible to hold off this sort of push. But I want you to note the interesting thing that we're going to see. Probes have not been pulled off mining. Gateway units have not swung around to really suicide to kill off anything. Voidrays are just pleasantly charging up. Looks like might end up losing some ground units. No, we'll just be pulling back. Look at the probes. Probes haven't even really been readjusted. 3rd Voidray coming out, very similar to before. Now, I want you to note something that is incidental. We are having 3 Voidrays again. If you were in the same pressure situation, you might not be thinking of it at a high level at all. You might just be going, holy shit, I might die, I better build some Voidrays! And that's fine, but I still want you to note, in the last game, when MC got to do whatever he wanted, 3 Voidrays plus rallied Phoenixes were damn good. In this game, holy shit, emergency Voidrays! Make the emergency Voidrays! 3 Voidrays and Rallied Phoenixes are still going to be good. In fact, they're going to be even better in this circumstance because of the way it held this off. Now, there's actually another game that we can look at as well, which is where MC gets this exact push thrown at him, the Roach Zergling push, by Moon, and holds it off just fine. These Voidrays actually end up coming out just in time to be able to deal with that. Just a great little timing. But once again, let's look at the way in which MC ends up recovering. And there's the Phoenix rally. Probes calmly continuing to mine in the units lost tab. Isn't that revealing? Look at how much more was lost by the Zerg. Now note that Roaches are cheap on minerals and gas and expensive on food, and the resource count still very, very high. In the worker count, Protoss essentially matched with Zerg at this point. And here comes this idea of forcing. If you do this all in, or this huge pressure that we see the Zerg player do, he is forced into some huge anti-air before Hydras. Notice, Queens have to be made, Spore Crawlers have to be made, and Evo Chamber has to be made. And then you gotta follow this all up with the Hydralisk Den. What a crazy different situation than the one that we found ourselves in last game, and yet still we can see so many similarities. And now, there's the Void Ray charging on the Destructible Rocks, because that's just good. But there's one other thing that I wanted to note about the positioning of these Void Rays. Alright, let's come to the oGsMC cam. Let's unpause. Here, the Void Rays rolling on in. Notice they poke at the front, try to pick off an Overlord, and where do they immediately go? Check the expansion, and then they end up pulling back to these rocks. That is so freaking damn gosh darn crazy important that it makes me thirsty. Listen. Listen! The big flaw that's in the low Masters level of play is management of expansions. You just constantly have to be checking for 3rd and 4th bases. Constantly. Just as important as it is to spend your money and to check your minimap and to make sure that you're not getting supply blocked is to check for frickin' expansions. And it is so essential that oGsMC, upon holding off an all-in, approaching the front, seeing an emergency defensive procedure, does not try to swing around and go for the throat. He pops to the right and checks expansion, because he doesn't want to try to win huge with some crazy, fast, fancy win. He just knows, I'm ahead. I'm going to get my expansion. I'm going to be continuing to pressure with air, and I'm just going to deny a 3rd. Because in the style that MC is going to be playing, you're essentially forcing your opponent to have a lot of bases with a lot of defense. He can't really do this lean two-basedness. Now, one thing that I also want to note that's very nice about Phoenixes, what is the only real answer that Zerg has to air? Like, if you're going Void Ray Phoenix, it's kind of basically Hydras, if you actually want to do any attacking at all, right? That's kind of it. I mean, you could have your queens sort of trundle their big, fat queen asses over to your base. Yeah, but they're going to take forever, and then you're going to get there, and you're going to go, oh, the army's too big. Retreat, right? It's just Hydralisks. And you'll note that Phoenixes are actually incredible against Hydras. Zergs don't have a good direct answer to a lot of Phoenixes. They really do not have a good direct answer to a lot of Phoenixes. Hydras are generally the only real way. If a Zerg player does get a lot of Mutalisks and Corruptors, what does he have to have? 3 bases worth of gas. And you, as we have seen, you are easily putting tons of pressure on that. So you can clearly see that this is cutting down on tons of stuff to worry about. And now that it seems like, well, there's going to be no base, he's going to be managing creep, he's going to be trying to find some overlords that are out there. That's right, because oGsMC is trying to purchase himself some more vision. Now notice the difference. In the game against Sen, what did MC do right now? He just took a 3rd base, because Sen had 1, 2, 3 bases. In this game, he doesn't see a 3rd base. So how is he going to respond? He's going for a much faster robotics facility. It's an intuitive response. It's a very, very smart, simple response. Hell, if you're going 2 base with lots of Hydras, my Phoenixes are going to be pretty damn good until your numbers get huge, so I'm just going to have a Colossus out. And there are the Hydras doing the appropriate amount of damage. Zap, zap, zap. Did I really just say zap, zap, zap? God, I'm a total loser. This is awesome. So now that the damage cannot be dealt, MC's going to pull back with these, and again we see very fast, or extra gateways, very fast robotics facility, and now come to the oGsMC camp. He's begins sweeping the map. He's checking for an expansion here. Again, expansion management, the real flaw of low Masters level players, that they're just not managing expansion. He's going to see this again, but I want you to again note the Nogram cam, how weird it feels. If this were down, the only extra vision that Zerg would have is this goofy overlord planted over here. Zerg's actually trying to do a big counter pressure. And as you'll note, if you attack with Hydras and you're wrong, which means that your opponent actually had enough units, terrible things happen. Terrible things happen to you and your Zerg family. Are you really going to be able to run away when every single Protoss unit is faster than yours? If you guessed no, then you win an E Jolly Rancher. That is right, you win the famous Mensre No prize for that accurate answer. So now come to the Nogram camp. He's just lost this big army. If you're a Zerg, you will note how commonly you control these 2 watchtowers, unless your opponent has a lot of Phoenixes on the map. Again, it's the big follow-up army of Phoenixes that's going to be doing the primary amount of scouting. And what do we have here? It's an Overlord. And what do we have here? It's going to be some Zerglings by the watchtowers. Let's just get rid of this sucker. Come on. Yeah, let's kill that guy off. Suddenly, Zerg feels immediately more in the dark. Much, much more in the dark. And we can see again by the intuitive response. Oh, look, checking for an expansion. Does it seem reasonable for Zerg to take an expansion there? Maybe 1 out of every 10 games, Zerg will have that expansion started. Check it 10 out of 10 games if you're the Protoss player. And thanks to this big army, you can. And notice once again, the vision is feeling very limited for our Zerg player. This single Zergling is the last bastion of hope. And he's gone. No hope remains for Zerg. Oh crap! Well, he got trapped. But we're still noticing, whoa, there's this huge-ass army moving out. And how much information does Zerg have about it? Well, actually none. So right when Zerg's killing off these Phoenixes, feeling pretty happy, yeah, he's going to pull back a little bit. He's probably thinking about gearing up to do a push here. A whole army moves in to the right base. Map control, vision control. Zerg is not getting the chance to adequately prepare, which Zerg needs to do because he has those faster units that can position more smartly. MC not going to do anything too risky. He's just going to clear out all the creep tumors, pull on back, and as a follow-up to the map control he gained by air, he's following up that by picking off all the creep tumors on the map. Very, very smartly. Here's some good army management that we're seeing come out of the Protoss. But we're not going to go ahead and do too much more research into that. What I want to do is, I've done 3 of the 6 games we're going to look at today. What I want to do is look up one of the older games from oGsMC. Let's see, all the games we've seen thus far have been the DreamHack tournament that took place in June. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Columbus games that took place earlier. Where is it? The championship bracket winner, losers round 9? No, it was losers round 10. Losira versus oGsMC. We're going to take a look at a game on Shakuras Plateau. Often what happens in many strategies is that you will do a watered down version of it. Actually, let me put it this way. You'll incorporate something into your strategy, like trying to do drops, trying to maybe do a new unit, like maybe doing some Hellion Harass, doing more expanding, something like that, and you'll lose a couple times. Not once, but enough that you're starting to go, ugh, this isn't really working, right? Most of the time, your instinct, and also most of the time my instinct, is to try to back off from it. I try to do some drops, I do a drop, it gets killed off, ugh, maybe I just won't drop and I'll incorporate it into my main army. All the success, though, that we've seen from MC's playstyle, though, has been because he goes over the top with his Stargate play. And this is something that I'm starting to do more with my experimentation. If I try to do some Hellion play, and I do 4 Hellions, and it doesn't seem to work, I'm going to try 8 or 10 Hellions before I'm willing to give that up. This is just something that I'm trying to do more and more of, because look at this game that's going to happen between oGsMC and I Am Losira. We're not going to see the one gate expand. We're going to see a straight forge expand, a very fast expand version of this build. This is an earlier iteration of MC's airplay. We've seen that he's ramped up the airplay, but look at the problems that occur when you don't quite ramp it up. Notice how cramped MC is going to feel in terms of his decisions. He's going to feel incredibly cramped. And though that might sound vague, it's going to be very explicit in a second. So we see him go, as you'd expect, for a sentry first. Here's a very fast Stargate. This is much earlier than in the other games. And here comes a chrono-boosted Voidray. It's going to be chrono-boosted non-stop. Now, from the Zerg point of view, what the Zerg player is thinking is, well, if this guy's walled off, he's also walled himself in. So there's no way I can actually experience any gateway pressure from him early on. So I am free to take this ultra fast base. I am free to do this. But then look what happens. Look what happens. oGsMC is going to feel cramped. Look at this. He gets this Voidray out. He's going to kill off an Overlord. And look at him sprint to the left of the map. He sees Zerglings. He shoots at them a little bit. And here is the other Zergling. He just skips right past that. He's sprinting to do some damage. And then here he is. Oh no, there's Spore Crawlers already up. He shoots a little bit. He lifts. He has to cancel. Even at the third base, there was already a Spore Crawler and a Queen up. And a second Spore Crawler actually was sort of, I guess, hinted at by MC. And this is a position that many Protoss players found themselves in, where they'd be getting this Voidray out really fast because it can hold off a lot of Baneling all-ins, it can hold off a lot of Roach all-ins, it can deny a third. And Zerg started to say, well, hell, I'll just take my third earlier, and then I'll have Spore Crawlers there, and then there's nothing you can do about it. So they tried harder and harder and harder, and oh, how miserable it was for the Zergs. And all of a sudden, Zergs finally locked down on that thing. And what happens for Protoss? They feel cramped strategically. They feel like they have to super rush to get that Voidray over to the third. But again, what we see MC do is that he overdoes it in his future games. Look at the problem that happens in this game while underdoing it. He can get this Voidray out, but this Voidray hasn't done anything. Look at the units lost tab. Nothing for Zerg. Zerg has lost just nothing. Look, 325 minerals, like he gives a damn. And yet we see some poking, and yeah, he maybe kills off a queen or two, but this is way different than the Sen game that we saw. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to go to another game from this tournament, oGsMC versus Idra, one of the first games that they played at MLG Columbus. The brilliant game by Idra, where he just crushed it. Where is it? Group C, oGsMC versus Idra, game 1 on Metalopolis. Okay, loading it up. Here's another crampedness that you're going to end up seeing. Alright, so let me pop back into this. This was, okay, I guess we're doing 7 games today, but this is still a really important example. This is oGsMC playing against EG's Idra, and as you know, Idra's really freaking good. Idra perfectly responds to the huge problems that Zerg used to be having. He's going to get his third up very fast. There's his second base getting up really quickly. We're going to see MC get out his sentry fancy business. Sentry fancy time. We're going to see Idra take a third here very quickly. Again, this is the problem of not really drilling hard into your air tech. I want you not just to notice what's going on building-wise, but also note what's going on unit-wise. We see Roach Warren going down. We see an Evolution Chamber going down. We see this really fast freaking Voidray. Actually, let me pull back just a minute so we can see the exact timing of it. Yes, that's right. He is indeed building the 3 gateways before he ends up building the Stargate, as has been the case in every single game we've seen from MC. Just so you don't think that MC's doing something different, which is why he lost. He's doing the same timing. But look at this. Rallied straight to the third, and look at the way Idra's going to be dealing with it. Here comes the Voidray. Here comes the Phoenixes. Alas, 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 alas. Poor EG Idra. No, actually not poor EG Idra. Idra holds it off fine. And look what's going on in the base. Do you see any Hydraless Den? Well, yeah, there's a Hydraless Den. Any Hydras? No, no Hydras. Alright, cool. In fact, we're seeing the range upgrade going down for the Roaches. We see just a smattering of Hydraless go down. We see some Voidray harass, but not really any big damage that went down at one of these bases, right? And with only one Voidray on the field, MC is in a rough spot. Not nearly the amazing spot. Look at this. Zerg has 3 full bases up. We see MC trying to kind of get a Robo to get those Voidrays up. Or excuse me, to get those Colossi up. We see him kind of trying to go for it, but it's a little bit grody. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to look at the way that MC solved this again. This is from DreamHack. This is Idra versus MC in their round of 16 match. It's going to be on Crevasse. Here it is, going into it. So what we've been looking at is the problem that encounters when you don't really heavily commit to doing the big air harass. But we're going to see MC really drill into it and look at the big impact that it's going to have on Idra. In that last game, Idra made a couple of Spore Crawlers. Just a couple. There's the Nexus going down. Here's the Forge going down. Here's the Gateway going down. Here's the Photon Cannon going down. All sorts of things are going down everywhere, and because you've seen this opening before, I feel committed to doing something very much so like Bob Ross. Look at these happy little pylons getting planted in a happy little Stargate, getting planted very early on. Oh, a little cutie sentry pie, repelling the Zerglings from aggression. And there we see Idra. Perfect information, right? Perfect information. I told you before, when something doesn't work, your tendency is to want to back off. That's true in the middle of a game, where you're like, my tech's been spotted, I want to back off. I encourage you to do the opposite, to just go crazy with whatever it is you want to do. We're going to see the Voidray pop out right now. He takes it down. And here he is, killing off a couple of the Zerglings. And he's going to be, poking on in here. Idra does have these Spore Crawlers up. MC's going to do a little bit of damage, but we see there's Voidray number 2 going down. He doesn't have to hide the first Voidray, but he certainly is hiding the second Voidrays. And then once the third one comes down, charging up on a Spore Crawler, suddenly the Zerg's standard line of defense is not going to be enough. We see immediately emergency Spore Crawler try to get thrown down. It gets taken down. Here's another Spore Crawler getting absolutely donkey. I'm not going to say that. He's going to get... Oh, I can't believe I almost said that. There's Stargate making Phoenix. And suddenly, we are seeing Idra not able to make roaches, as he was able to make in the game that we just got done seeing. Idra also does not have good vision on the map, as he did in the previous game, where he had a lot of control. And MC's getting himself a really fast third. He's making a lot of Zealots. He's getting a faster robotics facility. And once again, we see, as a concept, these Voidrays pull back after the big damage has been done, where we see Spore Crawlers going down everywhere. We saw a lot of Spore Crawlers get constructed and killed off here in the Units Lost tab. We see a couple more Zerg things get lost than in the Losira game. But another important factor to note is that, again, these buildings that were constructed, really, Idra did not want to make as many of those. And now MC is in a very good position, and even with a timing attack as incredibly, stunningly good as the one that Idra is about to throw down, MC still has enough to be able to defend it. And an important thing to note, let's just go ahead and watch the battle as he just manages these two battlefronts quite well. He's able to spot this counterattack coming in on the back because he has these fast Phoenixes that are allowing him to position his army perfectly. And we do see MC doing some nice micro to hold this off. But I want you to note, this is somewhat stressful for MC to deal with, but he's going to be able to deal with it kind of well. If you are trying to do what MC is doing, and the best player, like one of the best Zergs in the world, does one of the best timing pushes in the world, and you can still hold it off, yeah, that's going to be a really solid build. I assure you that when you go on the ladder and you're trying to try out the style, where you're doing all your intuitive responses after you've gotten your scouting and done this pressure down, that you will have a much easier time defending this sort of push. Because you will be playing against players of lesser skill than Idra, which is going to be almost everybody. Now what I want to do is one last kind of nutty example, which is, again, oGsMC, because all these are oGsMC. This is also from DreamHack, from the group stages against Nogrim. Nogrim ended up barely losing to oGsMC 1-2. But one thing that's really nice about the Stargate is that with all this forcing, you can begin to get creative with some of your follow-up strategies. Let's pop into this game. This is on Crevasse. I have no idea which game in the series this is. Have absolutely no clue in the slightest. But what we're going to see is... Okay, what we're going to see is me accidentally opening my overlay, but then we're going to get back to the game. We're going to see oGsMC open up with a very fast, standard, fast gassedness. We're going to see Nogrim open with his fast pooledness. But interestingly, we're going to see MC go straight for a Stargate. Now, you can't actually get a ton of Voidrays off one base and make it too stable. You don't quite have the resources to be able to do that. But what we are going to see MC do is he is going to get out his Void Ray, and there he is. He's going to be getting out of Phoenix. And again, he's going to be putting on as much pressure as he can, and we still have to see some queeniness. We get a little bit of damage dealt, but no more air units are popping out. We're seeing all these other air units sweep around the map. The Void Ray cutting down vision. The Void Ray checking for a third. It is easy to always deny a third when you get this very fast Stargate. But again, keep in mind it's kind of hard to follow it up with a second. And weirdly enough, we're seeing oGsMC get a whole lot of Zealots with speed and a fast +1. How nutty! Because we're shutting down scouting as much as we can. In a lot of circumstances, the Zerg player will get up his lair and be trying to get a Hydralisk Den, especially if you sneak out a couple of additional Phoenixes. So, in a lot of circumstances, like, your Zerg player will have maybe some roaches up as a typical thing and just be thinking, oh, I'll be going for Spore Crawler Roach Queen, and that's how I'll stay alive against this small amount of air. Or sometimes slightly more commonly, you'll see a player get a Hydra Den and just dash out a few Hydras and go right back to powering again. And interestingly, this Zealot push with Speed Zealots and a fast +1 rips that up. +1 Zealots annihilate small numbers of Hydralisks, annihilate any number of Zerglings. As we're going to see, here come all the Zealots coming on in. Weirdly enough, Nogrim, who has a pretty unique style in this game, does end up coming out with a whole bunch of banelings, and he just kills it all! But still, the important thing to note is that we can force our opponent down certain lanes and force them away from others. For instance, if my opponent went for a really fast third, and I went for a one-base Stargate, as in this game, I straight up kill it. I don't even really need to worry about that. If my opponent goes for a slightly later third and follows it up with your typical less units, more drones, and, you know, in particular focuses a little bit too much on the anti-air, you crush it. Banelings in mass are one of the few things that really does demolish this straight up. Also roaches in mass, but you can always get some good scouting done with the Void Ray and Phoenix to be able to determine whether it's a good pullback. But I just thought that was kind of a funny final game. But still exploits the fact that we're going to be forcing our opponent down certain lanes, and we can exploit this as a result. Alright, let me try to go to my very special own Markio page. There we go. To do the registered Markio question grabber. All right. I'm gonna be refreshing it. It is now capturing questions. I'm F5ing it, Marky. I can't wait. I can't wait till it begins asking those questions. F5. There we go. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, alright, here we go. So IceB says, Dear Day 9, I've been experimenting with carriers, but I'm having trouble transitioning into them. It seems opening air and then going carriers in lieu of robo is possible, but is it viable? I actually think it is, because carriers are so effing good. What the hell? They do so much damage. What I actually recommend for that sort of thing is to go for 2 Stargate Phoenix opening, take a faster third, and then jump into carriers. You can make 2 Void Rays off your 2 Stargates and then transition straight into Phoenixes, but there's just not that many good answers for Zerg to a lot of Phoenixes really early on, except defending a bunch, which is why you can easily take yourself a third base. Just make sure you get the +1. Carriers are really good, but you sometimes end up in a lot of funky games, and I will say that the carrier end game is very weird. Just make sure you manage your expansions hard. Scout freaking hard for those expansions. ZX Pro JK says, Dear Dana, what prescription glasses do you wear? I am -8 in both eyes. Look at how huge my eyes are without my glasses. I actually have like very large eyes in general, but then all of a sudden, oh, do those suckers shrink? What is this? What is the, oh! This is why I like myself without glasses, but everyone has sort of identified the glasses as part of my big wear. Kyle5454 says, Day 9, what about when he makes just Hydras? Just straight up tons of Hydras and runs you over because it's basically all he makes. Some of the slight vulnerabilities of this style is big 2-base, huge aggression. Actually, Hydras, just with a smattering of roaches in there, is quite threatening. But the important thing is that if you see him making quite a good bit of Hydralisks, to just continue the Phoenix production. That's why the 6-7 Phoenix follow-up is so key, because that will really crush a lot of Hydras. Some of the scariest 2-base Hydra lane pushes can be easily thwarted, weirdly enough, with 2 Stargate Phoenix. In this case, you can just go 1 Stargate Mass Chrono Boosted Phoenix, but the Phoenixes are a good option, and definitely an underexplored option. The big reason the Hydra Roach pushes were previously working is because Protoss players wouldn't quite commit to their Stargate. They would make 1 Void Ray and then 3 to 4 Phoenixes. But now we're seeing 3 Void Rays and 6, 7, 8 Phoenixes. Big exploitation of that. Gurren78 asks a reasonable question. Dear Day 9, how would a Protoss going air defend from a 1-base Zerg all-in? This is one of these situations where it's actually fine to completely abandon anything similar to this. You might see a 1-base all-in and just think, well, I'm going to go 3-gate and then a Stargate and not expand at all. I'm going to play purely defensively. And that's also fine. In fact, one of the best ways to deal with a 1-base all-in is to go Gateway, Core, Stargate, Gateway. And then you just make Sentries and Zealots at the front, Chrono Boost out Voidrays. What the hell can he send at your front that shoots air? Nothing, unless you want to include Queens, but on a lot of maps that's hard. So that's a great way to deal with this. You're going to have to do a pretty sharp deviation. Shiro Kaizen says, Dear Day 9, doesn't Infestor play work as a strong counter to your Mass Phoenix? Destiny-style Ling Infestor seems extremely potent against this. So, everything I'm about to say, take with a grain of salt, because there comes a point where things can sound good on paper, but they must be tested. If you want to get the Infestors up for the fungal growth, obviously, if you catch 6 or 7 or 8 Phoenixes in a big old fungal, you can take them down quickly. However, the 3 Void Ray with Phoenix attack at the 3rd base that we've been seeing in a lot of oGsMC's recent games, this hits around the time when his layer's starting to kind of wrap up. So he doesn't actually have the time to get the Infestors to be able to help out in the battle. As a result, the 3 Void Ray, Big Phoenix attack does tremendous damage. Though, when the Infestors come up, they will be able to do huge wonders against your air. The damage has already been done at that point, assuming you're doing the build correctly. Now, there could be ways that you readjust the timing, and perhaps you delay a 3rd, but so much of this attack's potency is the fact that it deals very well with battering down a 3-base Zerg and holding off aggression from any 2-base. So that's my thought about that. Last question. Last question. Last question. An obvious one that, you know what, I'm going to ask. I'm seeing people kind of dance around it. Yeah, there it is. Major Minor says, Dear Day 9, what is a good Zerg response to this sort of air aggression from TOS? The important thing is that you are probably going to have to embrace a little bit of passivity. There are ways to put pressure on that are very difficult. There are aggressive Zerg styles that you'll see players like July incorporate that are straight out downright tough. If you're a Grandmaster or a High Master level player, you can easily say, well, it's no problem, I just have to play perfect and hit all my timings dead on. But I know most of you aren't High Master and Grandmaster players. You're average folk. You're the good old boys. So, for that I would say embrace the passivity. State to yourself, I'm not going to be able to put a lot of pressure on him. So what I will do is I will get things like upgrades, things I don't need to be attacking to do. I'm going to try to minimize the amount of damage. I'm going to be making a lot of drones because, hell, even though he's doing so much damage by making me make spine crawlers and making me make queens and forcing me to make a couple of hydras, he's not lowering my larva count at any point. So I will exploit this by making a ton of drones and continuing. You'll note that in a lot of the games, I stopped early. Many of these games were 25 to 30 minute long games because the Zergs held okay and went into a long-term game. There's been explorations of suddenly throwing down a lot of air units. We saw Sen try to do that. It didn't end up working out quite so well because MC had Blink already. But many people think that the best responses are to make lots of Lings and Roaches, try to do light touching pressure on him with the Zerglings, but most importantly, just manage his expansions with your Zerglings. And then, as you start getting in bigger battles, suddenly spring forward with a bunch of later-term Mutalisks. That's some of the big areas of research. Lucira has been doing that quite a lot, and I'm quite aroused by it. But either way, that's going to wrap up Day 9 Daily number 323. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at Protoss versus Terran. Going to wrap it up with Protoss versus Protoss. And next week, it's going to be all Zerg week coming up. Hoping to have an extra special guest on during the week. Yeah. Giving you information when I get confirmation. And then subsequently, I will let you know that Fun Day Monday is the following Zerg-themed Fun Day Monday. You must only ever engage in battle when there is creep underneath your units. That includes air units too. So you're going to have to be flying overlords into his base, dropping creep, doing attacks, running away. I'm sure you'll be losing a lot of overlords and you'll be getting supply blocked, but it will be fun as Fun Day Monday is. With that, I'm out. Please visit my website, day9.tv, and please go find Sen's Facebook page and tell him that he is amazing. Big hearts to Sen. I was never actually angry at you. You were actually amazing. He is the most amazing player in the world. Bum ba dum bum. He is the most amazing.